Gridiron.
Shut your mouth podcasting.
Yards, touchdowns.
Shut your mouth podcasting. First round draft pick. Believe we got stats, kid. Quarterback sacking. 100-yard dashing. So tap in for the action.
Welcome to the Sim Podcast. I'm your co-host Sirik, and I'm always joined by my co-host Ron. What a run.
What's going on?
You know what we do? We talk about the NFL on a weekly basis, including the playoffs. And Ron, this is week 1. We're just kicking it off. This is an early than usual for us anyways, recording. But we're going to break it up into 2 parts. Part 1 is going to be our over and unders and our awards. And then part 2 is going to be our week 1 picks, predictions, NFL news, power rankings, and of course our upset specials. So Ron, let's just go right into it.
Let's do it.
Over and unders. Actually, let's start with awards. And of course, we're going to leave the MVP for last. So let's just talk about regular season awards, right? Who do you have as your passing leader?
I'm going with Jared Goff as my passing leader this year. I think he was like 2nd or 3rd last year, if I'm not mistaken. So I think he'll take another step in the right direction, and he'll lead the league in passing yards.
I seriously cannot doubt on that on you, because as we will get to it, I really love Detroit. Everything about Detroit, especially their quarterbacks. So you actually are not bad picking that. I'm gonna go myself with Dak Prescott, because I feel like he's a regular season performer, and then in the playoffs he just lays an egg. So I'm counting, especially this season, because technically this is a contract year, so to speak. So I'm really hoping that he shines. CeeDee Lamb just got the contract extension, so I'm hoping that, you know, Mike McCarthy has something up his sleeve with his team. Ron, who is your passing leader as far as TDs?
Going with Dak Prescott here. He was up there last year as well. I think he'll have another good season, regular season, as you mentioned. So I got him as my touchdown leader for 2024.
I'm going to go with Pat Mahomes on this one. I was kind of in the fence, but listen, like I mentioned when we did our other podcast, it doesn't matter who they have a wide receiver. He's going to get you the ball no matter what. If you're open, he's going to get you the ball. And I know we don't like the whole like, hey, ring around the collar, throwing behind the back stuff. That just, to me, that's petty, but it works. So I guess it is what it is. Ron, who do you have as your rushing leader?
No surprise here. I'm going Christian McCaffrey. Just the best running back in the league. No doubt about it. You know, he's so valuable to that team. He's going to be the rushing leader again.
I'm going to go with Breece Hall. I know he actually has a quarterback this year, so maybe a lot of the attention is going to go to Rodgers, and people are going to forget about Breece Hall. I know he had an injury a couple years back, but he bounced back, and I think that this year he's finally made it to training camp well, so I'm going to go with Breece Hall. Ron, who is your rushing leader TDs?
Derrick Henry. Listen, perfect system, I think, for him being on the Ravens. He's going to, at that goal line, he's going to put so much pressure, I think, on defenders between him and Lamar running the ball. I think he's going to go off, I think, on something crazy with rushing touchdowns this year.
Ron, I have 2 words for you. Tush push. That's why I went with Jalen Hurts, because, anytime they're like within 5 yards of the touchdown, they just implement, and that play is basically unstoppable. I mean, I know the Kelsey brothers not there anymore, but really, as long as the ball exchange is clean, it doesn't matter.
So more touchdowns for, Hurts as a quarterback than any of the running backs?
I think so, because even with Barkley there, they're still going to go to Jalen Hurts. Okay. So I have a good feeling about this. Who's your receiving leaders with receptions?
Amon St. Brown. I think he led the league last year, or was close to it. Last year, he, just one of the best possession receivers in the league. Goff loves to go to him, so that dude is no joke.
Yeah, I'm gonna go with the dark horse here, Kupp, because people forgot about Kupp and the fact that he's actually a pretty darn good receiver, especially when it comes to inside the 20. So I'm gonna go with Cooper here. I know the odds are not in his favor, but I'm gonna go with Cooper Kupp. Who is your receiving leader in yards?
This one's pretty easy one. Tyreek Hill. If the Dolphins are having a good season and Tua's having a good season, Hill's the guy that's kind of unstoppable. Yeah, I think he's gonna once again lead the league in receiving yards.
Yeah, I was gonna go with Tyreek Hill, but I decided to go with CeeDee Lamb. I just feel like he's got a new contract. He's got Dak Prescott looking for a new extension. I think the combination is going to be lethal. Again, he's probably not the favorite, but I'm going to go with CeeDee Lamb. Who is your receiving leaders TDs?
Dark horse here. Surprise pick. I got George Pickens.
That's a really, really dark horse.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not even in the top 10.
For receivers?
For just odds.
Odds? Probably not. No, but, I think he is one of the very few options in Pittsburgh. Touchdowns is one of those things that are crapshoot. One year you can have like 5 or 6, and then next year you just explode for 15, 16. So I think with him being one of the few options in Pittsburgh, I think he is going to go off and catch, be the leader in touchdown receptions.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he'll shine for sure. For me, I went with your boy Tyreek Hill, but he can break out and have tons of receiving yards and touchdowns because once he's in the open, it's hard to stop, right? I just worried about Tua's health. Can he make it through the whole year? It doesn't matter. I don't know. It remains to be seen, but I went with Tyreek Hill. Who is your sack leader?
TJ Watt. That's pretty easy. Listen, I think if he stays healthy, he's always, one of the top 2 or 3 leaders in sacks. I think he'll be able to break 100 sacks this season. He'll get close to 20, I believe. So I think he'll lead a league.
Yeah, I think if he stays healthy, I know last year he had the pec injury, right? That kind of derailed him, but he was the leader basically until that injury. I'm going to go with Micah Parsons, even though I don't know what Zimmer has in store for him in the defense, but I just like his number and I like the fact that the Cowboys usually, again, not including the playoffs, usually score points, which means that team have to play catch up, which means that Parsons is free to run wreck. Who is the last winless team?
Sad to say, I got the Patriots.
It's not sad to say. This is reality.
Yeah, I got the Patriots. I thought immediately Carolina, but they actually have a week 1 matchup that they can win.
Yes.
So I had to come off of that pretty quick. I went with the Patriots.
I went with Minnesota because they have way too many injuries. They have Sam Darnold now as the quarterback. 2 people got arrested. The Addison for DUI and another coach. It's just right now just a mess. So I like Minnesota's odds, but I could have easily gone with the Patriots. Who's the last undefeated team?
Tough one here too to predict, but I got the Lions. I think they're gonna have a good season. I think you hinted at that a little bit. I think they'll be the last undefeated team.
I went with the Eagles because I think the strength of schedule will go over it, but I really like them and the Dallas to own that division. So I went with the Eagles. So that is our regular season futures picks for the NFL. So let's get to awards, Ron. Ron, who is your NFL comeback player of the year?
Anthony Richardson. I think he's probably top 3 as far as odds to make it this year. I know Rodgers is up there as well too, but give me Richardson. I think he's gonna have a big year. I thought he played okay before he got hurt. I think he's gonna lead that team into the playoffs. So give me Richardson.
Yeah, I went with the odds-on favorite, Rodgers. Even if he has just a shadow of who he was before the injury, he's gonna win this one going away. I also like Joe Burrows, but that division is a tough division. I don't think he's gonna put up the same numbers as Rodgers. Ron, who is your offensive rookie of the year?
I went with Caleb Williams. I think just everything around him is set up for him to succeed. There's so many options at the receiver position, tight end, running back. I think they're going to have a good plan for him. They're going to let him throw, left and right. They're not going to, hold him back at all. And I think that team is destined as well to be a good team and potentially make the playoffs. So give me Caleb Williams.
Yeah, I was going to go with Caleb Williams too. I decided to go to Jaden Daniels only because really just to be a devil's advocate and go opposite.
It's tough to win that award though with like 6 wins or less, I would think.
Well, you know what? The money, I actually, and we'll talk about this later, I actually think that the Bears are going to go under. It's, I think it's 8.5 right now. That division, you got the Lions, you got the Packers. I don't know if they can get 2 victories out of each from those 2 teams. So I went under, even though their schedule is very easy. I went under. I just think Daniels, he's older. He's been around the block. Arizona State, LSU. I think he has potential for the rookie of the year. Who do you have, Ron, as defensive rookie of the year?
Defensive rookie of the year, Dallas Turner. He's one of the top, outside linebackers that were drafted. I think he's in a good situation too, where he's gonna win.
Yeah, I went with 2 with the Colts. I think because the head coach is defensive minded, he's gonna know where to put him. Of course, you could say the same thing about Mapu with the Patriots last year, and he ended up being hurt and not playing at all. So it's contingent on whether these people can stay on the field, people. Who is your offensive player of the year?
Offensive player of the year. So I'm going with a non-quarterback here. And I'm going with Bijan Robinson. Who got it last year? I think McCaffrey may have gotten it last year. I think Bijan is just going to have like a breakout season with Cousins at the helm at quarterback. Teams are not going to be able to just like put 9 guys up in the box. He can beat you in so many ways, running, catching. I think he's going to have a monster year.
Yeah, I went with a non-QB person too, CeeDee Lamb. I think that he's basically going to make up for the fact that he got paid, right? I think he's behind Justin Jefferson.
Maybe, not sure.
I know Justin Jefferson is first, and I think it's a flip-flop between him and what was Brandon Ayuk, like 5th? I don't know. Basically, all the receivers are getting paid.
Oh, yeah.
They're getting paid, and I think CeeDee Lamb has to justify the fact that he got all that money from Jerry Jones. Ron, who's your defensive player of the year?
Patrick Queen, Pittsburgh Steelers. And maybe, again, this is another homer pick for me, but, I think he's one of the top 8 linebackers in the league. And this situation he's in with Pittsburgh, with all the guys around him to support him, I think he's going to have obviously easily 100, plus tackles. But I think he can get into close to double digits in sacks this season. I just think he's going to be a menace in one of the most physical divisions in the league. And I think he's going to, be up there.
I went with Micah Parsons again, because if he's a sack leader, that means that he's already wrecking offenses everywhere. Plus, he's got the interceptions that he can make, and the tackles. It was an easy choice for me. Ron, who's your coach of the year?
Well, I mentioned Bijan and Kirk Cousins, bringing Atlanta back. So give me Raheem Morris for coach of the year.
See, I think that division, that NFC South, is going to be a little bit too easy. I don't know. That might go against him. I think he's going to succeed. Don't get me wrong, but that might go against him. I went with Jim Harbaugh. The dude just wins wherever he goes. I think this is a lock to me personally because he has Herbert. He's going to show up that defense and be like, hey, we need to run and stop people. So I went with Jim Harbaugh. Okay, Ron, who is your NFL MVP?
Jalen Hurts. I think he's, top 5 quarterback for sure. I think the Eagles going to have a good season, a little bit of a bounce back season. Saquon gives them a really good running game. And I think he'll be able to he's always been able to throw the ball, but I think he's just going to have a monster season and win the MVP.
Yeah, I think, to your point with Celeb Williams, Jalen Hurts has 2 outstanding wide receivers. He has an outstanding offensive line. He has a Pro Bowler running back. Dude is set up to succeed, right?
Right.
So I also picked him as my NFL MVP. I could have gone with Jared Goff, but I like Jalen Hurts to win the MVP. So there you have it. That's our prediction for the awards. And now let's go to the over-unders. And let's start with the NFC, Ron. Let's go with the NFC East. Ron, who do you have? Hold on 1 second. Let me pull it up here. Ron, who do you have for the Cowboys right now? There are 9.5 over and under. They went 12-5 last year for the 2023. The strength of schedule is at number 22. So what did you pick, Ron?
22 as in 1 being easy, 32 being hard, right? So
Right.
22 is pretty tough. I still give them an over. I think 9.5 is too low. You just mentioned they won 12 last season.
Yeah.
I think they'll get to 10 wins.
Because I like the Eagles so much, I'm going to go under. But this is like a really tight under. Like you mentioned, they have a second bottom as far as difficulty on the schedule strength. And there's just too many ifs, like, oh, this guy's on the contract. Can he play better? Why didn't you sign any players in the offseason, Jerry Jones? There's a lot of questions going on. So I went under. I don't think that they're gonna put as many victories as they used to. Maybe 10, but that would be overs. I don't know. The Eagles, Ron, they went 11-6 last year, and granted, I think 5 losses in the second half of the season.
Back in the season, they didn't finish well at all.
That's not good. But they have the 9th strength schedule.
Easiest, right? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and right now it's 10.5. So where'd you go?
I went over. I think like I said, I think Jalen's going to win the MVP, and I think he's going to get that team to at least 11 wins.
Yeah, I went over too. I think that everything is set on the table for them. Dallas is going to trip, but it's not going to trip enough where you go like where you're concerned. I just don't think that they're going to have more than 9.5 wins. The Giants went 6-11 last year. They have the 20th strength of schedule, and they're 6.5.
Yeah.
What'd you give them?
So when we did the Giants roster, I think I gave them 4 wins. So I'm going under. I'm sticking with that.
Yeah, I'm going under 2. There's no way that they go over the 6.5. Commanders, they went 4-13 last year. The 13th as far as strength of schedule. 6.5. Ron, what'd you give them?
Yeah, under here as well. Listen, Jalen Daniels might have a good season. I don't know if it's going to be enough to win Rookie of the Year. If he does win Rookie of the Year, I think he'd have to have more than 6.5 wins. But I'm going under here.
I'm going under, but that, wins doesn't necessarily mean that, you did terrible. Because it could be that you have a terrible defense, whatever the case might be. I don't see wins doesn't necessarily mean that statistically you did bad. But however, I went under with them because I just don't think that they're going to be ready. I mean, they might have the first year bump because of the first year coach, but they're not going to have 6.5 wins. Let's go in the NFC North run. Lions, they were 12-5 last year. Their 21st strength of schedule. Right now it's 10.5. What'd you give them?
I went over. I think they're going to, get to at least 11 wins. So I went over.
Yeah, I went over too. I really like the Lions. I think that not winning last year and losing to the 49ers kind of built a little bit of we can be better attitude, right? So they're going to go over. Packers, they went 9-8 last year. They have 19th, so maybe like the middle of the pack strength of schedule. It's 9.5, Ron. What'd you give them?
I'm going over here too. 9-8 last year. You expect them to take a little bit of a jump again this year. Now, I know they lost Dylan, their running back. Who's the back? Who's the starting running back?
Josh Jacobs.
So they're fine. They don't have a lot of receivers. That concerns me a little bit, but I think they'll get to 10 wins.
Wait, you don't like the receivers that they have now?
No, not at all.
Really? Because they're good.
Are they?
Yes. I mean, I don't have the numbers now, but they did pretty good last year. I think they might have had...
I think who's like Dobbs, Watson. They're okay.
I mean, people love them.
Do you know that in terms of salary, they're the cheapest receiving room in the entire NFL? I think the total salary is like close to $6 million or under $6 million or something like that.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. That just means that they drafted well.
I guess.
There's nothing wrong with that. So if I'm looking at their stats last year, none of their receivers hit 1,000 yards, but 790, 674, 561, and that was, reception wise, 64, 59,
it's 17
39.
games. That's not impressive to me.
Only one played 17 games. All the other receivers played 15, 14, 13 games. So listen, we know that Love didn't have a great year at the beginning, and then he got better. I think that this year he's gonna have a ton of experience, a full season where he's actually using these people. So okay. I actually feel good about the receivers. I'm gonna go over as well. I think the Packers figured it out. I think that they're gonna be better. Plus, you have the Vikings to beat on, and maybe the Bears. They play outside. The Bears. This is not an outside team. I think that when the cold weather hits, it's gonna be different. It's gonna be a different Bears team. So let's talk about the Vikings. 7-10 last year, 28th strength of schedule. So they're right up there with difficulty. 6.5 wins.
Under. That schedule's tough. Darnold as your quarterback. I don't know what to say. Like, it's gonna be a tough year for Minnesota.
Yeah, I went under too. It's just too many roadblocks for them.
No, had they had McCarthy, if he wasn't, their rookie hurt for the season, I might have went. It probably would have went up too. It'd probably be higher than 6.5. But Darnold's okay, but I think that team is lacking in certain areas, and I think they're gonna have a tough year.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad news for Minnesota fans. The Bears, they went 7-10 last year. They have the third easiest schedule. 8.5. Ron, what'd you give them?
Over, and I'm confident it's going to be way over. I'm all in on the Bears. I think they, landing Caleb Williams is just going to change the outlook for that team. All the roster moves they made this year, they're all in too on making the playoffs, and not just making it, but winning some games in the playoffs. I'm over. I think they get to not just 9 wins, they can get to 10 or 11 wins.
So realistically, you think that 3 teams are going to come out of the NFC North?
We'll get to our predictions in a little bit.
No, but just yes or no.
Not necessarily.
That's what you're saying.
I think
you're
it'll be
that the Lions, Packers, and Bears are all 3 going to make.
Actually, you know what? I'm looking at my. Yeah, that's what I have.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Wow. You really like the Bears because I went under. When was the last time?
It doesn't matter.
When was the last time? Because I want you to say, when was the last time that a rookie QB had this much expectation? Because forget about CJ Stroud. Nobody expected CJ Stroud to do this work good. But a rookie QB with this team that looks great on paper, but it's not. It's a cold weather city. This Bears team is not meant for the late December, early November, late November. I just don't see it.
Keep sleeping.
I just don't see it. It's not sleeping. I'm just telling you facts.
Okay.
Let's go to the NFC South. Buccaneers, they went 9-8 last year. They got 11th strength of schedule. 7.5 run. What you will go?
This one was tough. I went under, but I think it's right at 7 wins. I love Mayfield. I love Evans. Those guys are getting older though. And I worry. I mean, they barely got in last year. I don't think they make it this year. I got them, winning 7 games.
Yeah, I went over. Because NFC South is such a. Even with the Falcons, I still think that's a dumpster fire of a division. So I went over with them. I think they can win the division because I think the Falcons have. People are looking at the Falcons like they're the new Texans. Detroit Lions or Texans, and I'm like, no. You don't just crown yourself the winner.
No, they got to go out there and prove it for sure.
Yeah, they got to go and prove it. Even though they do have the easiest schedule, and we get to them. Saints, they went 9-8 last year, got the 5th easiest schedule, 7.5. What'd you give them?
I went under. I'm not a fan of the Saints at all. I can see that coach getting fired. I can see Carr becoming no longer a franchise quarterback, being moved to the bench going forward. I can see a complete rebuild after this season.
Yeah, I went under too. I don't. When I look at the Saints, nothing jumps at me.
No,
nothing. Not their defense, not their quarterback, not their running backs. I feel like Kamara has been there for a while. He hasn't done anything
in a while, right?
In a while. Mm-hmm. So I went under. Falcons, they were 7-10 last year. They got the easiest schedule at number 1. They're currently at 9.5.
I went over. Again, Raheem Morris, I got coach of the year. Lots of additions to that roster. They won 7 games last year with an easy schedule now, and Kirk Cousins to open up the offense a little bit more. They can get to 10. So I got them going over.
Yeah, I'm just not buying the hype. I'm not buying this quote unquote Kirk Cousins, because listen, I know him and Rodgers, they both got injured last year, but I feel like this might be different. And the first game, Steelers against Falcons, Steelers are going to whip them. And then everybody's going to get up.
Falcons are the favorite. We'll get to them, but Falcons are the favorite for that game.
Yeah, I know. Because the media as a whole are behind the Falcons for some reason. Steelers are going to whoop that ass, and then we're going to be like, oh, you know what? I can already see the back trailing that's going to happen after week 1. We're talking about the Panthers now. 2-15 last year. They got the 10th easiest schedule. 5.5. What'd you pick?
I went under. And it's tough to go over. I'm sorry, under 5.5. But listen, I think they are the worst team in the league. You know, I don't know about Bryce Young. I know they added Deontay Johnson. They drafted Xavier Legette. So we should see a little bit of improvement offensively, but I think this team's a long ways away.
I mean, I don't know where to start, whether it's the offensive line, whether it's the defense. They got rid of Burns, whether it's Canales. I don't think he's ready. He doesn't have the experience.
I mean, you could double your win record and still be under 5.5.
Yeah, it's definitely under. I think this is going to be like, they're going to be like the whipping boy of the South. Let's go to the NFC West. 49ers, 12-5 last year. They got the 18th easiest schedule, 11.5 wins. What'd you give them, Ron?
Went over, slightly over here. I think they'll get to 12 wins again this season. I think, listen, this year the window's open. When we get to like next year and the year after, that window starts to close when you realize you can't sign all these players and pay them what you're paying them. So they better make a run in the playoffs this year because that window is going to close quickly on them. But I do see them for the regular season going over 11.5 wins.
I went under only because I like Seattle, but I liked Seattle last year and they got rid of Pete Carroll. I just went under. I'm still not a Brock Purdy believer. I know that Kyle Shanahan, it doesn't matter who you put at quarterback, is going to succeed. I want them to whip the Rams. I want them to whip the Cardinals, and they're supposedly improving. So I want to see what happens. The Rams, they were 10-7 last year. The 17th easiest schedule, 8.5. What you give them?
I'm going over here. I think their Rams are a good team. I'm going over.
Yeah, I like McVay. I'm going over as well. I'm going over for the rest of the NFC West. And who's going to pay for that? I think the 49ers are. Seahawks, 9-8 last year. They got the 15th there, middle of the pack, 15th easiest schedule. Win total is 7.5. Ron, where'd you go?
Went over here. So I think they'll get to 8 wins. So just over for me. I don't have them in the playoffs. So I got them winning 8 games, but they'll be over 7.5.
Yeah, I went over. I think they're going to win. I think they might get the same record as last year, 9-8. If they go 10-7, it'll be great. I think that is it McDaniels, the new head coach? He was with the Ravens, and now he's with the Seahawks. He was a defensive coordinator for the Ravens, and now he's a coach for the Seahawks. I think the defense is going to be back. I think they know that they have to play defense. I think Geno Smith might be a tad better. Well, actually, let's look at the quarterbacks in this division. Who do you rank as number 1?
Snap.
And 2?
Wow. If you were to ask me who would I take number 2, I probably would take Geno number 2.
Yeah, I think I would take Geno and maybe Purdy 3 and maybe Murray 4. Listen, I know we're talking about the Seahawks, but let's go to Cardinals real quick. 4-13 last year. They got the 16th easiest schedule, 6.5. Where'd you go?
I went over. I think they're going to have a bounce back, season this year. I'm not saying they make it the playoffs or anything, but I think they can get to 7 wins.
Yeah, I went over as well, even though Kyle Murray is now a big if. Like, if he stays healthy. Because I don't even remember the last time that he was healthy all season,
For a full season, right? Yeah.
But when he's healthy, he's great. And
Dynamic.
Now he has Harrison as a wide receiver. I think he can jump Geno, and I think he can possibly jump Purdy. But again, he has to prove it, but I still went over. Ron, let's go to the AFC. And let's go to the AFC East. The New York Jets, right? I'm sorry, the Buffalo Bills. 11-6 last year. They have the 23rd hardest schedule. 10.5. What'd you do?
I went under here. So I think they'll get 10 wins, right? So, but, and still make the playoffs. But, I got them a little bit worse than last year.
I think they go over because even though they're down a man on wide receiver, right? And they're down a man on linebacker because I think Milano gets out. Wow, this is hard, but I went over because, and we'll do Miami next. With them, I went under, and I think Miami is going to pay the price. Miami went 11-6 last year. They have the 8th easiest schedule. 9.5 is the over and under. Ron, what'd you give them?
I went over. I got them at least at 10 wins and in the playoffs. Fairly easy schedule. Tua is what, third year with McDaniel or second?
Third,
right? Yeah. So receivers are healthy. I think Waddle's back at practice, if I'm not mistaken, and looks ready to start the season. They got a good running game. They'll start off hot as they always do, make the playoffs, and then choke from there. But yeah, I got them going over.
Yeah, I got them all going under because, and we'll talk about it later on. McDaniel's got an extension. I think he's comfortable. They had a good defense. Fangio was the defensive coordinator last year, and he got let go. He's with the Eagles now. So it's like, was it the defense that was a problem? Or was it the offense? We don't know. We know that Tua is great, but that's a big if. Like, is he going to stay healthy? Kind of like the Kyle Murray thing, but I'm going to go under with the Dolphins. The New York Jets, they were 7-10 last year. They have the 4th easiest schedule. Am I reading it right? 4th easiest? Jeez.
Yeah.
9.5. What'd you give them?
The schedule is why I went over. I think they'll get to 10 wins. I think, listen, they're a good team. I think it's a little bit overrated of a team with Rodgers, but to get to 10 wins means you're winning 3 more games with an actual quarterback. They won 7 last year with nothing at quarterback. So that defense is good. They got some weapons, obviously at running back and Wilson at receiver. So I think he gets them to 10 wins.
Yeah, I went over. I really like this Jets team, and it's hard for me to say that because I'm a Patriots fan. But they have an easy schedule. They have Rodgers back. They have Breece Hall back. They have a pretty decent offensive line. They traded to get better protection for Rodgers. I really think that they're going to feast on the New England Patriots, and I think that they're going to feast. They just basically, I'm really thinking that they're going to feast on all the teams in this division. So I went over. New England Patriots, 4-13 record last year. They have the 31st hardest schedule because that's just the way the cookie crumbles, I guess. It's 4.5. Ron, what'd you give them?
Under, and it's tough to go under when it's that low, but I got them winning 4 games. I think when we did our roster or Patriots roster review, so I got them at 4 wins.
Yeah, when we did the roster review and the predictions, I have them as 4 wins. I strictly went over because I just want them to have 5 victories. Just 5 victories. I don't know if Gerard Mayo is going to give him the first year bump like any other team usually does because he's been getting massacred by the press. Obviously, he doesn't know. Things are leaking. He's like the first year coach that really doesn't know how things work, which is weird to say because he was kind of like the linebackers coach last year. So he knows how things function in New England. It's just very strange, but I went over, but this is just the Homer fan in me. NFC North, Ravens, 13-4 last year. They have the 29th hardest schedule. It's 10.5 wins over and under. Ron, would you go?
I'm going over. I think the Bengals will get to 11 wins if Burrow stays, and that's a big if Burrow can stay healthy. I struggled with this one a little bit. I went back and forth a lot. 10.5 is a lot for a quarterback that hasn't really played a lot. You lost your running back, right, to Houston. I went over. I think I'm going to change this as we speak right now, though. I'm going to change this to under.
For the Ravens.
I'm sorry, for the Bengals.
For the Bengals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Were we talking about the Ravens?
Yeah, we're talking about the Ravens.
Oh yeah, never mind. Over. I got the Ravens over. My mind's on the Bengals right now.
Yeah, you're on the Bengals right now. I went over too. I think they get to 11 wins easy. With the Browns, 11-6 last year, 30th hardest schedule, 8.5 wins. Ron, what'd you give them?
Under. And that schedule's what's tough. I don't believe in Watson.
When is Nick Chubb coming back?
Not for a while. So he started off on the PUP list, so he's going to be out for several weeks for sure. Ford is a good running back, though, so that's not going to be the biggest issue. I think Watson's going to be the biggest issue, to be honest with you. But with that schedule, I got them winning probably, they'll probably be right at 8 wins.
Yeah, I went over, but it's with a question mark because, as you mentioned, we don't know. Watson didn't play the whole preseason, so we don't know did he play because he's really bad or are they trying to protect him? What is his third year, the guaranteed deal? We just don't know, right? But the fact that they have a pretty good coach, I just don't know. They have a decent defense. I went over, but it's with a question mark. Let's talk about the Steelers, Ron. They went 10-7 last year. They have the 32nd hardest schedule. Toughest, that means. It's 8.5. What'd you do?
Yeah, toughest schedule, supposedly, in the NFL this year. I think they, like always, they'll do okay in their division games. Their non-division games, I think they'll do well there. So I'm going over here. During the roster prediction, I gave them 10 wins. I think they'll get to 10.
Yeah, I went over here because first half of the season is so technically is easy because, as we mentioned, the first 7 games you only playing one playoff team, and that was the Cowboys. And then I think the division games is we don't know if Joe Burrows might be out by the time that the division games come, so we don't know if Watson is any good with the division game. So I'm going to go over, and I'm actually, when we do the playoffs, I'm going to tell you that I really like the Steelers to win the division. Bengals, 9-8 last year. They have the 6th easiest schedule. 10.5 wins. What'd you give them, Ron?
So this time the Bengals, I'm going under. Talked about that a little bit earlier. So 10.5 is a tough. That means you're getting to 11 wins. I just don't see it. I don't have them in the playoffs, so I can't possibly give them 11 wins. I'm going under.
Yeah, I went under too. They're slow team to get going. Chase, we don't know where he is. He's still holding out, right? I don't think
holding
he has
holding in. Yeah, showing up and not practicing.
Yeah, he's doing this whole thing that when we had Matt Judon doing that, he got shipped out, but not Chase. Chase is like, yeah, you can do whatever you want. So I just don't like that juju, that mojo that he brings. So I went under. AFC South, Houston Texans. They went 10-7. They shocked the world. They have the 26th hardest schedule. It's 9.5. What'd you give them, Ron?
I'm going to switch this one on the fly too, because I'm looking at my wild card teams. I got them getting in. So in order to get in, I think they'll need to get to 10 wins. So I'll switch me to an over for this one.
Yeah, I went over as well. I think that they're going to repeat as far as the win totals. So I think they're gonna do.
I will say this: the second year around for quarterbacks,
It's not as smooth.
Not as smooth. I think teams get, accustomed to what you can and can't do. Having Diggs there is huge. They're loaded at receivers for sure. I love Stroud. I think he's a great quarterback, but I don't think he's going to put up like as gaudy numbers as some people are projecting.
So is having Diggs a good thing then?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I was fine with the receivers they had last year.
Yeah, why? I mean, he was in Minnesota, he got traded. He was in Buffalo, he got traded. And I think he's getting up there in age, but I don't know. He's not a number one, right? Or he's gonna be, because that's the thing. Like, well, is he gonna be like CJ? Throw me the ball.
Oh yeah,
CJ throwing the ball.
Yeah.
But is CJ gonna be like, dude, you're not the number one here. Tank Dell should be number one.
Well, Nico Collins.
Or Nico Collins would be number one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
They have a lot of weapons.
Yeah, they have a lot of weapons. Jacksonville Jaguars, they went 9-8 last year. 14th or in the middle of the pack. 8.5. It's over and under. Ron, what'd you give?
I went over. I think they'll barely get to 9 wins like they did last year. But I got them going over.
Yeah, I think they're going to go over. And I think Trevor Lawrence, really, I know he got an extension, but it's really, are you the guy, right? Are you gonna perform under the lights? Forget about the multiple London games and all that stuff. Can you perform? Are you the best QB in that division? Are you like behind CJ Stroud? We don't know. Like, please do something. Like, Jacksonville is just starving for a winner. Just do something. So, anyways, I went over. Indianapolis Colts, they went 9-8 last year with Minshew. They got the 7th easiest schedule. 8.5 is the over and under. What'd you give them, Ron?
I went over. I think everything you just said is the reason I went over. 9-8 last year with Minshew as the quarterback. 7th easiest schedule. Richardson back healthy. I think he's better quarterback than Minshew. So I think they are going to be over. I think they're going to be way over. Not just at 9 wins. I think they'll, I got them winning this division.
I went under because I don't listen. Richardson is just showing a lot of potential, but I haven't seen it. And he only played 3 games last year, and he got hurt. I haven't seen it. Like, prove it to me that you're like this freak athlete, freak of nature, that type of thing. And I haven't seen it, so I went under with the Colts. Tennessee Titans, they went 6-11 last year. 27th hardest schedule. 6.5 is the over and under. Ron, where are you?
I went over. All of these teams in the AFC South, I respect a lot. It's going to be, hard for the Titans to get into the playoffs, but I think they got a decent roster. I think their quarterback is going to be pretty good. He's done some really good things, so I got them winning 7 games.
I went under. Until Will Levis shows me that he can actually perform, I'm going to go under. I know that they did make some good roster moves. I think they got Pollard as a running back. So, and then they got Ridley. So they made some good moves, but can you put it together? I want to see that before.
He showed some flashes last year.
I mean, having a good highlight is not different. It's very different from like actually winning consistently. And I want to see that before I crown them. So I really like the Texans and the Jaguars to come out of this division. The other 2 teams is the quarterbacks I have issues with, and I want to see them perform before I go over. And if AFC West, the Kansas City Chiefs, the champions, went 11-6, still won the Super Bowl. I think wasn't it the first time that Pat Mahomes went on the road last year? Yeah. They got the 12th easiest, the hardest schedule, depends, easiest. 11.5 wins over and under. What'd you give them?
I think they'll make 11 wins. They'll do that thing they always do where they look like pathetic part of the season, still figure out ways to win. and then they'll get in the playoffs and show who they are, as they usually do. So they'll get to 11 wins.
I'm going to change this one on the fly. I was going to go over, but now I'm going to go under because that division as a whole has gotten just a little bit more competitive, right? You got the Chargers with Jim Harbaugh there. Got the Broncos finally found their QB in Bo Nix. And then the Raiders, they have a lot to prove, right? Antonio Pierce has finally a full season under his helmet, under his guidance, so to speak. So I'm going to go under, but, it's one of those question marks. Like, are you guys going to come out the gate looking hot, or are you going to falter like you did last year? But they're going to pay at least a couple of games. Raiders, they went 8-9 last year. They have the 24th hardest schedule. 6.5 wins over and under. What'd you go?
I went under. I'm giving them 6 wins. I think it's going to be tougher, this year around. Especially losing Jacobs. Having Minshew, who they have last year, Garoppolo, was it, as their quarterback? I don't even know who it was.
I think it was a rookie, O'Connell or something.
Oh, yeah. Aiden O'Connell. So, I got them going under. I think they'll be playing quarterback, roulette all season long.
Yeah, I got them going under too. I'm not a Antonio Pierce fan, and I wasn't a fan when he played with the New York Giants. I'm not a fan now. He talks a big game, but can he back it up? I want to see them in action, so I went under. Broncos, 8-9 last year. They have the 25th hardest schedule, meaning that it's tough. 5.5 is over and under. Ron, what'd you give them?
I went over. Listen, you go 8-9 and you have that huge dispute with Russell Wilson on the sidelines and stuff, and you still win 8 games. They like Bo Nix a lot. I think he fits, the system that Sean Payton wants. So I see them going over.
Yeah, I'm going to change this one to go over too. I think that Sean Payton is a good coach. I think that he has a quarterback that he wanted that actually follows what he wants. So I think he's going to go over with more than 5.5 wins. San Diego, Las Vegas, Los Angeles Chargers. They just, they're so confusing now. They went 5-12 last year. They have the second easiest schedule. 8.5 is over and under. Ron?
Lots of people want to crown the Chargers, put them in the playoffs right away. I'm not going to do that. I went under. I think it's going to be slightly under. I think they'll improve from last year, but you're not going to get from 5 to 9 wins. I think they'll go 5 to 7 or 5 to 8 wins.
Okay, so let's do a quick comparison between the Chargers and the Falcons. Who's the better head coach?
I would say Harbaugh has
by a mile. By a mile.
But Raheem Morris hasn't really had an opportunity to be like head coach, right?
He was at Tampa.
Okay.
And he go to the playoffs?
Who did he have on his team?
Super Bowl?
Don't you need to have a decent team?
Kaepernick was the quarterback for the San Francisco and they went to the Super Bowl. Okay, so the Chargers have a better head coach. Who has a better quarterback? Kirk Cousins or Herbert? That's what I mean, Ron. You don't have to think about it.
I think Kirk Cousins is a better quarterback.
Oh, wow.
What the hell? What has he done? Yeah, right.
What was Kirk Cousins done?
He's been injured, and when he's not injured, he's leading the league or top 5 in passing yards every year, isn't he?
You can say that about Herbert. You can say that about Herbert.
No, I don't think Herbert has ever really put it together. We always project him as
do you know that Kirk Cousins has only won 1 playoff game in all his career?
How much has Herbert won?
That's half the years that he's been in the league.
How many has Herbert won?
Herbert's won a couple.
No, I don't think he's won.
Yes. No. You want to look it up?
Yeah, we should look this up.
Let's look it up. Let's look it up.
We'll do that on the side. We'll come back part 2 and talk about that.
Yeah, we'll talk about that in part 2. So Ron, I'll let you take the lead here. Who do you have in your playoff spot?
All right. Which you want to start, AFC first or NFC?
Let's go with the NFC.
All right, so NFC, the East, I got the Eagles winning the division. NFC North, I got the Lions. NFC South, I got the Falcons. Talked a lot about them. And then the West, I got the 49ers. And then for my wild card teams, the Bears, I love them, so I got them in as my first wild card. I got the Cowboys coming in at number 2, and then the Packers winning that 3rd spot.
Okay, so you have 3 teams for the NFC North making the playoffs.
Yes.
So who is your conference champion?
I got the Lions as my conference champion. I think they'll put it together and get to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I got the Eagles winning the East, the Lions winning the North, the South winning by the Bucks because I'm not buying the Falcons hype. The NFC West, this is a dark horse. I'm picking Seattle here.
Wow.
The Seahawks. And then for my wildcard teams, I got the Niners, Packers, and I got the Rams. Bring up the wildcard.
Wait, so do you have the 49ers in there?
And where?
In the playoffs.
Yes.
Okay, so who do you have? What do you say for NFC West?
3 teams. I have the Seahawks winning.
Okay.
I have the Niners get the wild card.
Gotcha,
and the Rams
gotcha.
get the other one.
Okay.
Then in my conference champion, I have the Lions winning it. Who do you have for the AFC run?
All right, AFC East, I'm giving that to the Dolphins. Not as hyped about the Jets as most people am. I think the Dolphins will do what they did last year. And I think they'll win the AFC East. AFC North, I think, belongs to the Ravens. They'll secure the division. AFC South, I told you about the Colts. I think they go way over 8.5. I think it's gonna be a big year for Richardson. They'll win the AFC South, and then AFC West, the Chiefs. I don't see anyone really taking control and claiming that spot over the Chiefs. For my wild card, for the first one, I got the Steelers in. I got the Texans in, and then I got the Bills in.
For me, I got the Jets winning the AFC East because I do believe the hype, and I do believe that Rodgers, if healthy, is going to dominate. The North, I got the Steelers, which is my dark horse.
Wow.
In the AFC South, I got the Jaguars. Another dark horse. Not Houston, not Indy, but the Jaguars.
Okay.
On the West, the Chiefs, because the Chiefs, they are who they are. And then my wild card teams, I got the Ravens, Texans, and Bills. And the Bills are a question mark, but I got the Bills in there. And then the conference winner is going to be the Ravens. So,
same with me. So we both got the same teams in the Super Bowl.
But we don't have the same winner. So who's your winner, Ron?
I have the Ravens winning the Super Bowl.
I have the Lions winning the Super Bowl. I think that everything is set for them to have a really, really good record as far as wins. I think I saw something like out of the 17 games, 3 of those games are outside.
Let me ask you this question, because since you put me in a spot earlier, who was a better coach?
Between Harbaugh and who's the other coach? Campbell? Obviously Harbaugh.
Yeah, exactly. Campbell literally cost them.
I don't even know
the playoffs last year. He literally cost them that playoff.
But the same offensive coordinator, the same defensive coordinator.
Yeah,
I can't say that about the Ravens.
Well, they're the same for the most part this year, right?
Not the same defensive coordinator. He went to Seattle.
Yeah. Okay.
So that doesn't mean much in the scheme of things, but I want to see him take control of this defense.
Yeah.
So I want to see. I think Campbell learned his lesson. I'm not a big a Dan Campbell fan, but I think he's learned his lesson that you can't just put all your chips on the table every time. But I think the Lions learned their lesson. I think that, listen, if we can have a woman president, we can have the Lions winning the champs. So anything is possible. Anything is possible.
So what have we learned? We learned, let's see, in the NFC, I really like the Falcons and the Bears. I mean, you went for the most part chalk, except for Seattle. That's the biggest surprise out of all your picks. Just looking at your playoffs there. And then in the AFC, I really like the Colts, and you really like the Jags. I think those are probably surprises to most people that are listening.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, even the Steelers, because they're not really picked to win this division. I personally just saw that there was value. I think the odds are like 8-1 or 7-1. So I was like, oh, let me pick the Steelers because they have a good defense. And if Russell Wilson can be average, that team can win some games. So yeah, so that's our over and unders. Stay tuned. We're gonna do part 2 where we actually talk about week 1. So stay tuned.
All right, that's it, guys. That's the end of the show. Thanks so much for all your support and listening today. If you got any questions, comments, feedback, feel free to email us at simsportsmedia@gmail.com. That's SYMSPORTSMEDIA@gmail.com. Peace.